In this video, we will see that why did Russia invade Ukraine. As we all know, Russia-Ukraine war is going on from February onwards, and Russia has invaded Ukraine. But in this video, we will know this video comes in the international relations topic of the UPSC mains, and it will be very helpful to you, and it will provide meaningful information to you. So, if you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe the channel, and also keep focus on the video so that you can understand the important points. So as you can see here, we will know in the video that why did Russia invade Ukraine. So let's move forward. So as you can see, these are some of the Ukrainian troops. They are protecting the people who have been killed by the Russian troops, or who have been harassed by the Russian troops, or who are injured by the Russian troops. So we'll move forward. Then this is Volodymyr Zelensky. He is with the Russian troops so that he is protected by the Russian troops and his army men, and so that no one he is protected by the Ukrainian troops and his army men, so that no one can kill him, or there is no uh, danger to his um life. So he as he is the president of Ukraine, so he is being protected by the Ukrainian troops. Now let's move forward. So now we will know why there had been tensions. So while there had been tensions between Russia and Ukraine, as Ukraine was a former Soviet republic for a long time and only fragmented afterwards, the situation began getting out of control in early 2021. In January last year, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged US President Joe Biden to let Ukraine join NATO, so that is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So there are many European countries, Western European countries, as well as USA and Canada in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and this treaty is an intergovernmental treaty, and these all countries cooperate and coordinate with each other and operate according to the and their objective is to make this world a peaceful world and establish democracy. So these countries, uh, the condition in the NATO resolution is that if any country of NATO gets attacked by foreign power, then all the countries of NATO will help that country in fighting that foreign power. So this is all about NATO. So earlier Ukraine was a Soviet Union republic, and after it fragmented in 1991 or 1992, so when Soviet Union was dismantled, so or disintegrated, so after that it became an independent country. And now in 2021 the tension started between them, because in January last year Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged US President Joe Biden to let Ukraine join NATO. So now we'll move forward. What happened after that? That this angered Russia, which started sending troops near its Ukraine border. As Russia is a superpower and there is always a cold war going on between the United States and Russia, so this angered Russia, as Ukraine shares a huge border with Russia. So this angered Russia, which started sending troops near its Ukraine border for training exercises in spring last year and increased it during autumn. So in 2021 only the training exercises began, and the troops started gathering, and the troops started increasing in spring, and then it increased in during the autumn season. By December, the US began hyping up the deployment of the Russian troops, and President Biden warned of severe sanctions if Russia invaded Ukraine. So US began hyping up the deployment of the Russian troops near the Ukrainian border, and President Biden told Russia that they will face a lot of sanctions if they invade Ukraine. Then Russia has demanded that the West gives a legally binding guarantee that NATO will not hold any military activity in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin claims Ukraine is a puppet of the West and was never a proper state anyway. So Russia demanded that the West gives a legally binding guarantee, as there is always a cold war going on between Russia and United States, because they are the two superpowers of the world. So Russia, to protect its security, to remain secure and sovereign, and to protect its internal security, demanded that the West gives a legally binding guarantee that NATO will not hold any military activity in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. So, and Vladimir Putin also claimed that Ukraine is a puppet, claimed that Ukraine is a puppet of the West and was never a proper state anyway. So after that, this is not, and we all know that this is not the first time that tensions between Russia and Ukraine has reached a boiling point. Russia had invaded Ukraine in 2014 when rebels backed by President Putin had seized large swathes of eastern Ukraine and have fought like the Donetsk and Luhansk region and have fought Ukraine's army since then. And at that time, Russia had annexed Crimea. In 2014, Russia had annexed Crimea, so it was expelled out of the G8 group, and then the G8 group became the G7 group. The Russia left the G8 group in the 2019. It disassociated itself with the G8 group in 2019 after a resolution was passed, and then it became a G7 because it had invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea. So this was the condition in 2014. As you can see, this is the map that the Russian troops had acquired in 2014, that the yellow is under the control of the Ukrainian government, the pink is the Russian Federation, and the dark pink is under control of the pro-Russian and Russian forces, that is Crimea and Donetsk and Luhansk region, and the purple line represents the Russia-Ukraine border. So as you can see, the Donetsk and Luhansk region, as well as in the eastern Ukraine, as well as the Crimea was acquired by the Russian forces in 2014. So now we will move forward. As a former Soviet republic, Ukraine has deep social and cultural ties with Russia, and Russian is widely spoken there. But ever since Russia invaded in 2014, those relations have frayed. So, as we know, Ukraine was a former Soviet republic. So there are deep social and cultural ties between the two countries, and there are a lot of Russians living in Ukraine also, and Russian is widely spoken, as well as Russian culture, tradition, beliefs, and customs are also followed in Ukraine widely by many people. So, but ever since Russia invaded in 2014, those relations have frayed. So there are three types of people, three categories of people. One who want Ukraine to remain independent, one who want Ukraine to join the NATO forces, and one who want the Ukraine to join the Russian forces. So there are secessionist groups also operating in Eastern Europe which are pro-Russian. So these are the three categories of group. One is pro-Russian, one is pro-Ukraine, and one is pro-NATO. So all these have different objectives, and their different ideas and opinions about the country. So now Russia attacked Ukraine when its pro-Russian president was deposed in early 2014. That is why Russia attacked Ukraine in 2014 and annexed Crimea and Donetsk and Luhansk region, which are major industrial regions of Ukraine. So the war in the east has since claimed more than 14,000 lives. But we have to know that why this tension started in 2022. Why did Russia invade Ukraine? So Russia and Ukraine had signed the Minsk peace accord after 2014, the annexation of Crimea and invasion of Ukraine in 2014. Russia and Ukraine had signed the Minsk peace accord to halt the armed conflict in East Ukraine, so that the armed conflict will be halted in the eastern Ukraine, including the Donbas region. But as the conflict has continued, Russia says it is sending peacekeepers, that is, peacekeepers are its troops and army and troops, to the region where the conflict is brewing. The West calls it a smokescreen by Moscow to occupy sovereign territory. But the West tells everyone, and the Western media tells that it is just a smokescreen by Russia to occupy sovereign territory of Ukraine. And now the new tension between Russia and Ukraine, which also borders the European Union, has repercussions for the European Union. And that's why the European Union, most of who are NATO signatories, have joined the US in announcing sanctions against Russian entities. So when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022 in February, most of the European countries who are signatories of NATO have announced sanctions against Russian entities. After that, why did Russia invade Ukraine? So Putin nurses a deep sense of grievance over the loss of Russia's power and influence since the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991. So Putin was not at all happy when there was the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991, and many countries were established around Russia, which were independent countries and were free to have their own constitution and republics. and any kind of system, presidential, parliamentary, or democrat, whatever system they want to follow, democratic or communist or socialist. So Russia was not at all, and Putin was not at all happy about it. Ukraine was formerly part of the Soviet Union but declared its independence in 1991. So this is the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. As you can see here, it is going with the date that how the Russian forces attacked Ukraine. As you can see here, 25 May, 27 May, 29 May, 2 June. So most of the mm, invasion is in the eastern Ukraine, and major cities in the Ukraine were bombed also. And so this is how it happened. Most of the cities were bombed, major cities were bombed, the industries were destroyed, residential areas were destroyed, the agricultural fields were destroyed, the economy of Ukraine went down, and Russia also faced many sanctions, so economy of Russia also went down. Russia stopped Russia has not stopped supplying oil and natural gas to the other countries. It is trading with other countries who are not a part of NATO, but to NATO countries it has reduced supplying. Like Germany, it has reduced supplying natural gas through its pipelines, and it is starting to do so because it does not want to trade, because these countries have put sanctions on Russia. Most of the companies of these countries have stopped their operation in Russia. Russian economy is falling down. They have to back their currency with gold so that they can pay back their debts in gold and take loan or trade in gold, trade in their currency, so that they can assure the other countries that even if they are not able to pay their debts in their payments in the currency ruble, then they will pay it with gold. So Russia has started backing up its currency with gold. So if you think that the United States had earlier planned, after it left Afghanistan it was planning for a new front, war front, so that it could supply arms and ammunition and earn a huge profit as well as. So you should know that Russia is also a superpower, and this attack by Russia was also pre-planned, so that it can occupy Ukraine and gain a huge part of territory which was earlier snatched by it during the 1991 war and 1991 disintegration of the Soviet Union. And now Russia is announcing most of the Ukrainian citizens have fled either to other countries, or those who are left will be given. Russia has announced that they will be given they will be given Russian citizenship, and the Russian forces have almost occupied the whole of Ukraine, in spite of NATO being there, and NATO forces are providing arms and ammunition to Ukraine to fight the Russian forces. But as it was not a part of NATO, so they cannot attack Russia on part of the to help Ukraine. So they are only supplying arms and ammunition and giving billions of dollars and millions of dollars of aid to the Ukrainian forces as well as to the people. So this is Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Most of the major cities were bombed and destroyed, and people have fled and left their homes like in the country like it was there. There was large and huge scale destruction in both the countries. Almost 40,000 soldiers have lost their lives in both the countries, and there are even instances of war crimes, sexual crimes, sexual harassment of women, as well as killing of innocent individuals. So this is what happened. This is what happens during war. Both on both the sides there is destruction. Maybe there is a winner and there is a loser, but the destruction will happen on both the sides. And there are large scale repercussions of this war on the world also, as inflation has risen to a large extent in almost all the countries, and many countries are on the verge of economic crisis due to this war. So as we move forward, having a prosperous, modern, independent, and this is why Russia invaded Ukraine, because Ukraine wanted to be a part of NATO, and it had applied for a NATO membership in January 2021. But Russia did not want Putin was very much unhappy because it was a Soviet republic in 1991, and declared its independence in 1991 over the loss of Russia's power and influence. And after that, Putin also didn't want a prosperous, modern, independent, and democratic European state. That is, prosperous, modern, independent, and democratic European state bordering Russia, because he perceived this as posing a threat to Russia's autocratic regime. As Russia is a socialist country and everything, labor, land, capital, is controlled by the state, it is state controlled. So Having a prosperous, modern, independent, and democratic European state bordering Russia was perceived as posing a threat to Russia's autocratic regime. And if Ukrainians succeeded in fully reforming their country along lines of the other Western democracies like UK or Spain or France, Germany, which are part of NATO, it would set a bad precedent for former Soviet countries and serve as an example. Precedent means guiding principles which are taken from former examples which have happened in life earlier, so for former Soviet countries, and serve as an example for Russians who want a more democratic country. So he thought that if there is a prosperous, modern, independent, and democratic European state which is bordering Russia, and it is an and on the other side Russia is an autocratic regime, socialist regime, and so if Ukraine reforms itself on the lines of Western democracies, it would set a bad precedent for former Soviet countries like Russia, and the people in Russia will also want a democratic society and democratic government, which will be a loss in power for Putin. So which would mean a loss of power for Putin, and the loss of power for Putin and its government, the Russian government. So, and there may be large scale protests against the government, and the government may fall. So, there will be a regime change. So, Putin did not want a regime change, and he wanted to remain in power also. So, it would set a bad precedent for former Soviet countries and serve as an example for Russians who want a more democratic country. So this Putin did not want Russia to become a democratic country. So that is why these are the two reasons that Putin and Russia invaded Ukraine. First reason in this one, which is written on this page, and the second reason is that Ukraine wanted to be a part of NATO, which Russia did not want. But after this war also, Sweden and Finland have become a part of NATO. So earlier they were not a part of NATO, but they have become a part of NATO. And also some of the countries, there is a Kaliningrad, which is a part of Russia. It is a European. It is surrounded by other countries like Poland and Belarus. These countries, it is a part of Russia, Kaliningrad. So the countries which are surrounding Kaliningrad have stopped rail services to Kaliningrad, so that Russia is not able to hold on to its territory. But Russia is supplying gas, oil, and natural gas and other food items as well as necessary items to Kaliningrad through the shipping, through the ships, that is the seaports. So let's see how long Russia will be able to hold on to Kaliningrad, because it is an independent part of Russia, sovereign part of Russia. So now, and it is in the Baltic Sea. So now this is what the Russia's invasion of Ukraine of 2022 looks like. They invaded Ukraine through Belarus, as well as Russia, as well as Crimea and the Donetsk and Luhansk region also. So the territory claimed by Russia, as you can see here, Transnistria is also a territory claimed by Russia. Moldova has closed its border, so that because it is in fear, the president of Moldova is very much fearful that Russian troops will also attack Moldova and occupy it, because it is also not a part of NATO. So Russian troops have occupied Transnistria. Crimea earlier was occupied. They have occupied Snake Island. Then they have occupied the Donetsk and Luhansk region. They have bombed many cities like Kiev, Mariupol, Melitopol, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kharkiv, and then Dnipro, Mykolaiv, Kherson, Lusk, Lviv. All these countries have been bombed by Russia. There has been large-scale destruction. People have moved out of these cities and have migrated to other countries, as well as those are left. There have been large-scale crimes on them: war crimes, sexual harassment of women, rape. These crimes have been there, and people are forced to leave this country, as well as as well as those who are left will be, Russia has announced that they will be provided with Russian citizenship. So all Russia has almost captured whole of Ukraine, and Russia is a very powerful country militarily and defensively, because it is one of the veto countries of United Nations Security Council, and is one of the most powerful countries in the world. So this is all about Russia-Ukraine war, why Russia invaded Ukraine, and what was the background of this invasion. So as you can see here, the bombings of Ukrainian cities are also shown here, and reported advancement of Russian ground forces are shown by red arrow. Reported clashes by Ukrainian and Russian armies are shown by red and blue arrows, and major airborne landings are shown by parachute. So Now the war is still going on. The Ukrainian forces are trying to fight back, but they are very less in number. They are getting aid from the NATO forces in terms of arms, ammunition, and money, but they are still very much small, and they are no match for Russian army. There have been large scale destructions on both the sides. So let's see where this war goes on. And the world is also suffering because of this war, because there have been large scale inflations in almost all the sectors and all the countries, and some of the countries are facing economic crisis. So this is one of the areas in the city of Kharkiv. So Kharkiv, or this is Kiev. One of the this is the scene of one of the buildings in Kiev which have been destroyed by a Russian missile, and all this is this was a residential area, but now it has been fully destroyed, as you can see here, by missiles of Russia. So this is what the condition of Ukraine looks like now, and let's see what happens further. Okay, so I hope you found this video meaningful, and hope this solves your problem that why did Russia invade Ukraine. You have got the points, so keep those points in mind and always keep on revising it. This video belongs to the international relations in UPSC mains GS paper 2. So hope you found this video informational and meaningful, and please like, share and subscribe the channel, and also like the video if you found it meaningful and informational. And we'll move on to other videos and further UPSC preparation mains videos in the next videos.